Hello, everyone. Welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 429. Andrew here. Got a couple topics tonight. We're going to talk about butts. We're going to talk about He-Man. Those are two different topics. But first, I am afraid that I'm going to have to complain about AI some more. Generative AI, to be specific. I would complain to the important people in my life, but I feel bad about that because the less than desirable things that they're facing are much worse than mine. And I don't want to complain to them about it. It's like, oh yeah, boo-hoo, that sucks to be you, man. Yeah, that's terrible. So I'm going to complain to you instead. Spent probably half an hour last podcast complaining about Gen AI. But I need to talk about it some more. Because it's on my chest. And I don't want it there. Like stubborn body hair, it must go away. So, like many, I'm sure, I am in a group of people at my place of employment that have been tasked with evaluating Gen AI tools, specifically ChatGPT and Copilot, for use in the workplace to determine how they can be used to improve efficiency and create a greater work product. It's framed in a way as evaluated and let us know if this is a good investment, but it doesn't seem that that's actually what it is. It seems like we've invested so much money in this that we had to lay off a bunch of people, so you goddamn well better find a good use for this. No one said our jobs depend on it, but it's certainly the impression more than one person has, which has got me particularly stressed. And of course, I am cognizant of the fact that this is not the biggest problem that anyone in the world is facing currently, obviously. So, myself and the others who are tasked with this decided to do a weekly group work session, and our first one was on Friday. And one of my peers created a work session guide, a document that was intended to lay out the agenda for the work session, the 2-hour work session. We blocked 2 hours for it. It was very clear to me that this work session guide was AI generated, and it was clear to me that it was AI generated because it sucked in myriad ways. I shall count some of them for you now. It broke the 2-hour block into sections and time-boxed each one. The time-boxing was optimistic, overly optimistic, flat out unrealistic in its optimism. The time boxing added up to 2 hours and 20 minutes. You might remember a minute ago I said the whole session block was 2 hours. And that's not counting however long section 9 out of 10 was supposed to be, because There was no time box on section 9. Oopsie. The formatting changes throughout. Emphasis is sometimes used with italics, or communicated with italics. Sometimes it's communicated with bolding, which can get confusing because the section headers are delineated by bolding them. And there are some words and phrases that are just bolded for seemingly no damn reason. The types of there's lots of bullet lists. The types of bullets occasionally change. Well, it just changes one. If I'm remembering right, I think it just changed once. A lot of the things in the document just didn't make any goddamn sense at all. There was a section right up front that was attempting to define success. Success is list, list, list. Success is not list, list, list. Except the same thing, judgment, was on both lists. So judgment, specifically eliminating judgment, was both definitionally a success and not a success. Also, what the fuck does judgment mean? Whose judgment? Judgment about what? I'm sure if someone just glanced at this document and went, oh yeah, sure, that looks like a document. But if you actually read it, it's not very good. There are some critiques one could reasonably levy at it. And so, I took out my red pen, and by that I mean I put enable editing into Word and selected red for my, cursor. And I red penned the entire document like I was a middle school teacher grading a particularly stupid child's book report. And boy, howdy, did I paint the document red. I had something to say about nearly every line. Now, did I send this to my supervisor? No. Because at that point I felt I'm skating on thin ice as it is. I just submitted another evaluation of a test I ran where ChatGPT got the lowest score it could possibly get, and I don't know what to tell you. When I instruct ChatGPT to do something and it fails in every way it can possibly fail, I can't justify giving it anything more than the lowest possible score, all ones across the board, at least in the categories that were applicable for that particular test. That particular test, you might remember from last week, was, can ChatGPT copy its own output accurately and save it into a document? The answer is no, it can't. So, 1 out of 5. Because I don't have the ability to give it 0 out of 5. Now, to be clear, if the difference were only like slight formatting issues, like maybe the destination file didn't have whatever fun little emoji ChatGPT was using and it came up with the little, question mark thing, I wouldn't dock points for that. But no, as I mentioned last week, the output was 249 characters and 120 of words, 249 words, and 120 of those words were different. So, fail. which is definitely not what the folks very high up the ladder want to see. So I already figured I'm skating on thin ice. Hello, Lee. So instead of submitting an email with this attached red penned document saying, "Hey, stop using ChatGPT to create these documents. It's bad at it." I decided to just pick like one, maybe two, I thought of the most important points and just relay those. So I decided on, let's see, I said, I read the workshop or work session guide, and I think it would behoove us to, whenever we, instead of just creating an output and evaluating it, we should use the same prompt with the same attached files in multiple independent sessions so that we can not just evaluate the output, but see how the same input can produce, see what differences, I think is how I phrased it, what differences the same input can manifest in different outputs. And I also said, by the by, even with the time boxing information missing from section 9, little dig there that this thing fucked up, we're definitely not going to get through this entire thing. The time boxing is overly optimistic, so I think we should expect not to get through this. Also, I think we should reorder these few sections here. Like, I think we should look at the inputs before we run the prompt. And I was told that sounds great. Go ahead and make those changes and resend them to everyone who's on the distribution list for this work session. So I did. Small victories, I guess. I had also, in addition to another reason I felt I was skating on thin ice, is we were using an already completed project as a base standard. Here is a human-generated work product that we want to compare the generative AI work product to, as a just have some base of comparison. And I advocated we need that information at least 2 days before so that we can read through it and know it and be familiar with it before we start generating stuff, so that if something's incorrect, we know. So I'd already been pushing buttons. So the work session day rolls around, and we didn't bother using the goddamn guide at all. We didn't even use it. Didn't reference it, didn't look at it, didn't follow it. Just started pressing buttons. Just started, here's a prompt, let's try this, see what it does. So, ChatGPT was, so I guess it doesn't matter that ChatGPT's work session guide was not good, because we didn't use it anyway. But that's not the particularly galling part that I wanted to address. I have implored my peers to stop using ChatGPT as a source for truth. Stop asking ChatGPT questions that you don't already know the answer to. Because, as I have demonstrated, as I have proved repeatedly, ChatGPT is not consistently accurate enough to use it in that way. You cannot rely on ChatGPT or generative AI output to be accurate. It is not reliable. I have demonstrated that over and over and over and over since last June or so. Going into the meeting, someone had created a project in ChatGPT, which is basically a set of instructions for ChatGPT to follow when it's evaluating whatever you prompt it with and working on an output. I don't know about anyone else, but if best practice is to instruct ChatGPT to be accurate and not make things up and fucking ask if something is vague or ambiguous or unclear, that's like a major red flag or three in it. Like, that should be the baseline standard, I would think. I was horrified, but I suppose unsurprised, to find that the instructions for that particular project, the guidelines that ChatGPT is supposed to abide by when it generates outputs, was created by asking ChatGPT what instructions it should we should give it to have a reliable output. You can't ask I had literally, I think earlier that week or late the previous week, told this person once, not the first time I told him, but I told him again. I'm like, you can't use ChatGPT to figure out how to use ChatGPT. You can't ask ChatGPT how ChatGPT works. It doesn't know. Its output is not determinative. It's predictive. It's not like looking up the answer in OpenAI's help section. It's just predicting what the answer should be, or at least what the answer looks like. And there's a bug crawling on my door. Oh well. So we're using ChatGPT to create a guide for a work session that we're not going to use. We're using ChatGPT to generate instructions that will keep ChatGPT in line when generating a work product, and asking ChatGPT what we should prompt it to get the best result. That's like asking a liar what we need to say to them so that they won't lie. What a silly thing to do. So, at one point, towards the end of the work session, someone was wondering if we could use a GPT inside of a project. Can you venture a guess how they went about trying to determine whether that was possible, whether that was something ChatGPT could do? Yep, that's right. They asked ChatGPT if ChatGPT could use GPTs inside of a project. And it said, yep. And talked about it and output some procedure And they all tried to follow but couldn't. They're like, wait a minute, where is this? How do you do this? And they're referencing what ChatGPT told them, and they're trying to follow its instructions. Meanwhile, I went to OpenAI's website. OpenAI is the company that produces ChatGPT, if you didn't know. And I went to their help section and looked up projects. And in the FAQ, I found a section for can GPTs be used in a project? The answer is no. Currently, no. No, it can't. That's what the help section on OpenAI's site says. And I pointed this out to them, and they're like, but ChatGPT just said it could. I'm like, yeah. Trying not to get fired. This is why I keep advocating that we do not ask ChatGPT questions we don't already know the answer to, because its output is not reliably accurate. And here's the fun thing. Maybe OpenAI's help section is incorrect. Maybe this functionality has been since added and the help section has not been updated. These are mutually exclusive though, so one of them's incorrect, and well, if I had to put money on it, I would say the source that is consistently incorrect and just makes things up is, of the two, probably the most likely to be incorrect. But then again, for all I know, OpenAI used ChatGPT to generate the contents of its help section, so who knows? Let's talk about other stuff. Some months ago, I saw a trailer for Code Violet. I thought it was funny, so I talked about it on this podcast and poked fun at it because it was a very derriere-focused marketing campaign, if I do say so. It was this trailer was so focused on the protagonist's plump behind that one could be excused for not noticing that there were dinosaurs in this game. Dinosaurs that you need to shoot in the face before they bite you in yours. But again, the trailer was so focused on the protagonist's rear proportions that you could easily miss that there were dinosaurs in this game, which you would think would be a selling point. No, very butt-focused. So I made fun of that on a podcast some months ago. Well, Code Violet came out this month. Apparently it's not very good. I've read a few reviews, I've watched a couple video reviews, and it's so bad it comes off as this game was like a scam. Like scam levels of bad. Like, they were just showing a nicely modeled behind and weren't showing much of the rest of the game for a reason. They're like, oh man, I bet we could sell a game with a butt in it. Maybe. What I found most interesting is the protagonist of this game this is a 3D game, and the protagonist is rendered in full polygonal 3D. But it appears she's been designed from only one angle, the rear. Because while she looks very nice from the back, and she's got a very nice shapely caboose, if you look at her character model from any other perspective, any other angle, doesn't look so good. when you're drawing a character in 2D, you can just draw them to the camera because it's 2D. You're only going to see it from that angle. If it's going to be another angle, you just draw it in another angle. But 3D characters, they need to look good from all angles. It was undoubted. I haven't spoken to anyone in the know, but I would put money down that when they first brought Mario into 3D, translating the 2D sprite from the Super NES games, the more recent Super NES games, into full polygonal 3D was probably an enormous nightmare. Because Mario didn't have to just look good from the side, you know, with his little jumpy animation. He had to look good from the back, and the front, and from top, and from low angles. Had to look good from every angle. So, even in those early days, 95, 96, they took the time to make sure that that 3D model looked good any way the camera was staring at him. But the main character of Code, I would assume her name's Violet. Is her name Violet? It's probably Violet, right? Maybe it's Susan. But she only looks good from one angle. The back one. But this is a game with plenty of full 3D cutscenes, so you see her from the front and the side and every other angle pretty often, and she doesn't look very good. Not like completely janky and broken. You know, not that popular Freudian up angle, right? No, but it's very clear that she was designed from one angle, and they didn't bother looking at her from really any other because she looks off in pretty much every other angle. Like, her proportions are just wrong. And I'm not talking about her most jiggly proportions. I'm talking about all of them, top of the head to the tips of the toes. She's just... Again, they built a 3D character from one perspective, pretty clearly. Bayonetta, she is not. She is not. She is no Bayonetta. And I think that's an interesting point to bring up. Like, it's completely fine to make a cheesecake game. I like cheesecake. You go 3 miles that way, you find an entire factory dedicated to cheesecake. A cheesecake factory. Everyone loves cheesecake, except the ones who don't. Nothing wrong with cheesecake. Nothing wrong with adding sexy to your video game. Granted, that shouldn't be every video game, but yeah, it's cool to have sexy characters. It's fun. And there's lots of games that pull that off with aplomb, but the point is, you can't just have a character with a nice butt. You actually have to have a good game. Bayonetta's got a great fanny. And you see it a lot. She sticks it in the camera and her crotch, too. Bayonetta will not let you go 5 minutes without assuaging your concern that her crotch has gone missing. She's like, you think it's gone? Huh! Still there! And it's a fun game. It's got great character design. Well, 1 and 2. I think the homunculi in Bayonetta 3, kind of dull. But otherwise, the rest of it, great character design, great monster design, the combat's super fun. You know, it's a fun game series. 3, I think 3 feels like they were trying to make an open world game and it didn't work. And then they pulled it back to linear but didn't have time to rework the levels. So you have these big, wide open, empty levels. Yeah, the game's not unfun, but it's kind of a mess. Nier Automata. The main character's wearing a thong. I mean, it's covered in a skirt, but her skirt blows up a lot. There's a button to blow her up so that her skirt is off. Literally a button for that. It's a very cheeky game, but it's also a genuinely great game. Some would call it a masterpiece. And while I wouldn't go quite that far, I also wouldn't argue. Great game. It's got wonderful design, its story, it's interesting, its character's interesting, it's a ton of fun to play, it's very unique. Even the anime that was based on it, I didn't watch the whole thing, but what I watched, not too bad. Um, the recent Stellar Blade, another game that's built around the shiny jiggle of its lead character's posterior. But it's not just Eve's arse that sells the game. There's actually a fun game there. Not perfect. I've got my critiques, but definitely a strong foundation, which I think on which I think a great sequel could be built. You know. So the problem with Code Veronica, that's not right. That's Resident Evil. Code Violet is not a desire to have an attractive a pair of attractive cans in your fit. Well, which end are the cans? Buns. There you go, buns. And cans could be either end, I guess. Making sure that your character's butt fills up a quarter of the screen and jiggles oh so right. Yeah, sure, cool, fine. But there needs to be a rest of the game, guys. And the rest of your game has dinosaurs in it. And it still sucks? Oh. I mean, making video games is hard. Sometimes it's a swing and a miss. But from what I've seen of this game, I don't think we were swinging with all seriousness here. This feels like it feels like a scam. It feels like someone just created a character model and just said, we could sell this, but we need a game. Oh, just cobble anything, dinosaurs or something, that's fine. That's kind of the impression I give. And looking in the history of this, the studio behind it, not their first rodeo. So Code Violet seems to be doing quite poorly, and perhaps, lessons will be learned. But maybe. So, they're making another He-Man movie. I saw Masters of the Universe in the theater when it came out in the late 80s, 87 or so. And even at the tender single-digit age I was disappointed in that movie. Even as a young child, I had some bare minimum standards in my entertainment. Not many standards, not very high standards, but I did have some. And I saw Masters of the Universe, and I was annoyed that most of it takes place on Earth, in LA. Now that I'm older, I understand why they probably did it that way. Because it was either shoot in the California desert to double as Eternia, and probably no one really wanted Eternia to just be a sandy scrub brush California desert. So they're like, this is just gonna suck. So let's He-Man and his friends get warped to Earth. I mean, it's not gonna be, I mean, that sucks, but it's cheaper to shoot than, like, literally building Eternia back in the, the later 80s. Yeah, it's still not a very good movie. Although Meg Foster's Evil Lynn is pretty inspired casting. It's got some hokey charm. So anyway, they're making a new He-Man movie, and they teased the trailer, which is always fun, a trailer for a trailer, earlier this week. And the first thing I noticed was there was a shot of who I would assume is Adam / He-Man. But he's clearly in a modern room with what look like action figures on a shelf behind him. And I was like, oh no. This looks like it's going to be the reverse of Masters of the Universe. It's going to be He-Man is some dork on Earth who gets isekai'd to Eternia and learns he's He-Man and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh no, that's not what I want. Don't do that. Just make a He-Man movie. You could just make a He-Man movie. Just make a He-Man movie. Just make a He-Man movie. You could do that. Everyone would like that better. You could just do that. But, wait for the trailer. So the trailer came out the next day. I watched the trailer, and yeah, it's some dork on Earth. Although apparently, he was, Mom did the Krypton's not exploding, but we need to send our baby boy away so that I guess Skeletor doesn't eat him. So she sent Adam to Earth where he grew up, and now he comes back and has to kick Skeletor's bony arse. Um, Other than the whole unnecessary, I would assume, haven't seen the movie, maybe the whole Earth component is integral to the plot. Maybe it leads to really funny jokes or great character moments or is thematically appropriate for the story that they're telling. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I'm not going to judge it before I see it, but it is a red flag because that almost never works. It's almost always an insanely and obviously bad idea. And the reason they seem to do that so often is to have the audience surrogate character. So Adam, because he's grown up on Earth, when he gets to an Eternia as the audience surrogate, he gets to ask all of the questions that we, the audience, would ask about Eternia, a place we've never been, because it doesn't exist. Right? So Adam gets to go, "What's that?" And then Tila or Man-at-Arms or whoever gets to say, "Oh, that's Battle Cat," or, well, Cringer. Or that's Orko, or did we see Orko in the trailer? I don't think we did. Or, any number of things. Hey, what's that? Explain this to me. Skeletor? Who's that? And, my opinion, the correct opinion, is, that's just lazy writing. You don't need an audience surrogate character, and if you do, you need a better writer. Because there's plenty of sci-fi movies that take place on not Earth that are just fine without an audience surrogate character. Would Star Wars have been improved if Luke was some dude working finishing high school or doing some really crappy out of high school job on Earth and got zapped to a galaxy far away by falling through a wormhole or something like that? No, I would argue probably not. But through some decent writing, Luke actually is the audience surrogate character. Because he doesn't know much about the Force or the whole Imperial Rebel conflict. He lives on a dirt farm, well, a moisture farm, out on Tatooine. He doesn't, he's aware of the Empire, but he doesn't really know much about it. He's aware that there are rebels. Doesn't know much about it. He's broadly aware of Jedi and the Force, but he's just a guy who's been working a farm his entire life. But that puts him in a position to ask someone who would know, Obi-Wan, pertinent question. All right, what's the Force? Things like that, right? You don't actually have to zap someone from Earth to do that. It just takes competent writing. So, hopefully the He-Man movie is good. They should stop putting Jared Leto in movies, but, I think the reason he shows up in movies so much is because he's, producing them. Like, he's probably putting money in them, and that's why he's in... Really, honestly, just stop. Nobody likes him because he's a terrible human being who hurts people. Stop putting him in movies. I don't, say no to his money. No one actually likes Jared Leto. There's literally, I would be surprised, other than like Jared Leto or his family or something like that. I don't know if there's like anyone's like, oh, he's great, I love him and stuff. I mean, he's fine, but I don't know. I've always been a person who's a film enjoyer who's never really cared about specific actors. I mean, there's actors I like, sure. There's actors whose work I admire, yes. But there's never really been an actor who I'm like, I'll see that person in anything. No, you know, if it's not a movie I'm interested in, it doesn't matter what actor you put in it. I'm not interested in the movie. But that might just be me. So, yeah, hopefully the He-Man movie is good. Despite the whole Earth connection. Maybe it works real well. We'll wait and see, but... Hey, you know what was apparently really bad? The Monster Hunter movie. The live-action Monster Hunter movie. I haven't seen it. I just hear it's really bad. And it's another one of those, oh no, people from Earth get warped to the Monster Hunter world. And it's like, why? Just do a Monster Hunter movie. Yeah, there was another Monster Hunter movie. It was that hour-long animated Netflix one. And it was pretty good. You know what the difference was, other than live action and animation? There was no person from Earth who got, warped to the Monster Hunter movie. It was just people who live in wherever Monster Hunter takes place, doing Monster Hunter-y things. And it was pretty good. I don't know. They don't put me in charge of this stuff. And maybe for good reason. Maybe all of these movies would have made significantly less if they'd followed my advice. Yeah, sure, perhaps they would have been better movies, but maybe they would have made less. Maybe people, it's like, oh man, I'm not interested in seeing a Smurfs movie. Oh, Smurfs in New York? Now I'm interested. I love Sonic, but I'm not interested in watching Sonic run around the Green Hill Zone or whatever. Oh, he comes to Earth and hangs out with James Marsden? Oh, now I'm interested in a Sonic movie. Really? I mean, okay, but... Huh. Not what I would have expected. So I've continued playing Clair Obscur, Expedition Thwaighty Thwee. And I quite like it. Sadly, I ended the stream last Sunday like 6 steps from the area boss. That's a shame. I could have easily just done 10 more minutes of the stream and had a better place to end, but, that never played the game before. Didn't know where I was. Interesting game. I'm very much liking it, and I'm very happy that as an RPG, it's one of those RPGs where it doesn't have the audience surrogate character or self-insert character, the blank slate character, the create a character, the name 'em yourself kind of a character that stands around silently and gormlessly nods as the narrative happens around them. Like Link in most of the Legend of Zelda games, or the hero in most of the Dragon Quest games, and I like the Dragon Quest games. That's my favorite RPG franchise. Not the best RPG franchise, I don't think, but definitely my favorite. Hell, I just played the demo for Dragon Quest VII like a week or two ago, and yeah, it's another in a long line of where the hero is just some dork that you get to name. It's a wonderful character design, but he's just some mute dipshit who people talk at, and he just grunts and nods. The design's great, though. Like, the design of the characters and, the design of the nameless, quiet, mostly quiet hero character in Dragon Quest VII is great. The design of the nameless, quiet hero character in 8 is great. 11, also. But do you remember anything about the characters other than what they look like? You remember the companions. Because they're characters. They've got strong visual design, but they're also really strong, fun, memorable characters. Sadly, the heroes in Dragon Quest rarely are. There's lots of memorable characters in the Legend of Zelda games, but it's really not Link, usually. Again, strong character design. Ethan Winters of the more recent Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 7. There's a lot of really great characters in Resident Evil 7. No one gives a shit about Ethan Winters, though. That is, I imagine, compounded by the fact that it's a first-person game and you don't see much more than his hands. And to be fair, I think the game, and particularly the actor, did a really nice job of actually bringing a personality and character to Ethan in the follow-up Resident Evil Village. So, kudos there. But, yeah, Ethan, by design, I think, was kind of designed to be just some person that you don't really connect to. Me personally, I prefer characters who are protagonists who are characters, rather than mostly blank slates. I guess maybe I take role-playing really serious. I want to play a role. That role. I want to be that character, not myself. I'm myself all the time. I don't need to be myself somewhere else, too. I guess is maybe the way my mind works. But, yeah, so I'm particularly happy that Gustav and Lune and all the other characters that you meet. Actually, the front dashboard of my PS5 says 43%, which I play you know how slow I play. Is this a particularly short game? I don't know. So, of course, I have no idea if that number is, how accurate that number is. But yeah, the characters are all really well drawn, well written. They've got strong designs. They've got strong actual characters. Really, I'm liking it a lot. The story, I think, is interesting. I think there's a lot of mystery, but it's not frustrating. Everything is doled out at a nice pace. They are doing one thing with, who's, at least for now, being set up as the big bad, the older gentleman with the cane who slaughters your friends on the beach when you first land on a Paintress Island, I guess. They're doing that thing that bad guys often do in stories that I just find irritating, which is, if only you understood, if only you could see things from my perspective, you're actually the bad guy. You're actually causing harm. You just don't understand what you're doing. I have to do this. And it's like, yeah, I don't believe you. Asshole, just take it. I mean, clearly you're 60 levels above me. I can't do a damn thing. So before you chop my head off, unless you really like killing people, seems to me that you could just, if what you were saying were true, you could just, explain it to me instead of lopping my head off. I hate bad guys like that. It's very irritating, and it usually doesn't pay off. Right? The bad guy is either full of shit or an idiot. It's like, dude, this was completely unnecessary unless you're a sadistic psychopath. You could have just explained, if they were right, it's like, hey, I know this sucks, but killing the Paintress will literally end the world, and everyone will die. Yeah, this is horrible, but at least some people get to live a little bit. If the Paintress dies, the entire world goes with it. That'd be like, oh, shit, something to think about. Is that true? Is he like, there's some cool stuff that could possibly be there, but no, he's just an asshole. We'll see how that plays out. Again, I apparently am only 43% of the way through the game. And sadly, I've hit a part that's like, if you haven't played the game, is like a major spoiler. And I want to talk about it because I have something particularly witty to say about it. But the game's been out, I think, less than a year, so I don't feel really like spoiling that moment. But it's for those who've played it, I got to the point where the character Verso shows up, and the events around there is what I'm talking about. So that's where I am in the game. Yeah, dude, spoilers. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about it. I want to, because again, I have something really important to say, but yeah, I'm really. I think the performances are very good. I think the what's interesting is the facial animation is actually quite strong most of the time, though the lip sync is pretty spotty. Um, it's interesting seeing the visual presentation really excel in some areas and then just fall flat in a few others. Eh, video games are hard. What are you gonna do? It's fine. Um, I find the parry mechanic very interesting because I don't I don't recall ever seeing another RPG where you can just flat out negate damage. Like in Cold Steel, for example, you can parry. Well, actually, you can just, if you manage to evade an attack, you do a counter attack. Same kind of an idea. In Clair Obscur, you can deliberately parry an attack, and if you parry it properly, you counterattack. But in Clair Obscur, when you parry, you negate all damage, and your counter is really strong. It's stronger than most every other, well, it's stronger than like your base attack, your base shot, and pretty much any of your skills by themselves. Um, you can easily, and for the most part, most efficiently, kill every enemy, at least up to this point in the game, just by parrying. Um, by contrast, for those who don't know, in Cold Steel, when you when you counter, you that's not like your strong. Even if you crit, that's not like your strongest attack, right? Um, it's really interesting because in Cold Steel, there's nothing you can really do unless you can somehow get every character up to 100% evade, physical and art evade. Then nothing can touch you. But there's no way to just completely negate all damage. Like usually RPGs have some sort of block mechanism and it does like some chip damage. So if you want to approach an enemy who's 30 levels above you, you're probably not going to win. You're going to die in at least a war of attrition. Even if you play flawlessly, it's just going to, you can't do enough damage fast enough before you just start running out of healing items and chip damage your way yourself all the way down to zero. But in Clair Obscur, I think I've tackled a bunch of enemies that you're really not expected to beat at this point because they one-shot you easily and you do very little damage. But it's like, if you can parry their attacks, it doesn't matter. You know, it may take like 15 minutes, but you're gonna kill them eventually because they can't do, because if you successfully parry, negates all, it doesn't even do chip damage. That's all damage. And I have yet to see an enemy in this game so far that has more than 4 different attacks. So now, to be fair, there are a couple attacks in this game. There's like 2 enemies that have an attack that I just can't figure out the damn timing to. You saw one of them during the stream last Sunday. I just could not figure out where the hell you were supposed to parry. And it did it like 20 times and failed every single time. I'm like, too early, too late. That's one thing there might be a nice way if there was some visual indication if you were too early or too late. Because there's a couple instances where I'm like, I have no idea what it... There's actually one enemy that I fought recently who I screwed up. I could not figure out how to parry because I'm sorry, it was a jump move, but I kept dying. I couldn't jump over the move, even though I could clearly see the jump indicator. And it took me like probably 20 attempts at that one attack before I figured out, oh, you're supposed to parry the first hit and then immediately jump. So I'm like, how early do you have to jump this? And it's like, no, 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 you're supposed to parry that. Which was confusing because it has another attack that does the same exact thing. That's a jump. So I looked at it like, oh, this is a longer string that I just have to do multiple jumps. Nope. It's a parry and then and then an immediate jump. And then I think like another jump and two more parries. So, not sure how I feel about that. I'm like, if you're good at parrying, does that make the game too easy? I don't know. I'm finding the game so far a bit of a cakewalk. Um, it's not really a grindy game because there's just not a ton of enemies around. It's it's closer to Dark Souls than it's there's just enemies here and there that you can respawn them if you just save at a campfire or a flag. But I don't know. I haven't been having it like I've not bothered to upgrade any of my weapons. Haven't needed to. I didn't even engage with the Lumina system for quite, which is the one where you can buy the effects of the different Pictos things because I didn't need to. In fact, because I didn't even look at it, it's like, what is all this stuff for? And it took me a while digging through the menu, going like, oh, that's what. Oh, you can do that. Oh, okay, cool. Don't really need to. Don't really feel the need to. So I'm like amassing all of this resources where I could upgrade my weapons, but they keep dropping new weapons or upgraded versions. I'm so afraid I'm going to spend this finite resource on upgrading a weapon, and then some enemy's just going to drop a better version of it anyway. It's like, okay, I just wasted stuff. And I'm doing plenty of damage, and the amount of damage you do doesn't really matter that much, again, if you can parry. If you can parry, then who cares? I will say this, though. I do like... I do like I do like the fact that how it works is you have a party of four, but you can only have, at least at this point in the game, you have a party of four, but you can only have three active fighters at one time. Someone's in reserve, right? In Cold Steel, you have a party of four, but you have two in reserve, right? Some of the Dragon Quest games do exactly the same thing. The Tales games do something similar. And one of the things I like about the Tales games and the newer, at least the Cold Steel games, is you can actually swap your reserve members in to make them feel like they're there and participating, right? Clair Obscur does something I don't think I've seen any other RPG do. And it's this. If your three main party members wipe, if you get TPK, a total party kill, if all three of your active members die, in most games, that's game over. In Cold Steel, if the four members that you're fighting with die, doesn't matter that you have two in reserve. You're done. Game over, right? In Clair Obscur, if your three main drop, your remaining one character comes in as the last stand. It's got a name to it. I forget what it's called, but that's a really cool idea. It's like, okay, your party got wiped. You've got one more last stand type shot at this. Does your person in reserve? It's like, okay, all three of you just got wiped, but I'm gonna try and take care of the rest myself. I don't have the ability to to synergize with anyone else's skills, which is a bit of a handicap. But again, if you can parry everything, I don't know. I probably have to finish the game to really get a concrete opinion on this, but I'm wondering if some semblance of chip damage to parrying would have worked better. Because I never dodge. There's no point in dodging. There's no value to dodging. Dodging is, I mean, I think it's a slightly wider window, but if you dodge, no damage. Well, I mean, okay, but if you parry, no damage. So both of them do no damage, and one of them does an insane amount of damage back to the enemy that you're parrying. So there's like, don't dodge, just parry. Yeah, I mean, unless you don't have the timing and your timing is only good enough for dodges, then okay, fair enough. Um, but I think it might have been a more interesting. It's something I'll have to play more of the game and think about. But it might have been more interesting if it's like, okay, dodging, wider window, no damage to you, but also no return damage to them. Parrying, significantly reduced damage, but you do take a little bit of damage, but you also do a great amount of damage back. I think that would encourage at least me to engage more with the weapon level system and the Pictos, because I don't even bother much with what Pictos I have. I just equip all the new ones because they're there. I mean, it drops them so quickly. That's another problem. I think they overload you with Pictos and skills and stuff. You just get so many so quickly that it's like, I don't know, use the new one, whatever. Like, it doesn't even matter because I just parry everything. So it's like, it doesn't matter. What weapon you have? Who cares? What Pictos do you have? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just parry. So I think if there were more of if there were something that pushed you to pay a bit more attention to weapon and Pictos and things like that, and I think taking some damage on parry would help. It would also, if that were desired by the game's designers, it would also discourage players from just tackling threats that are clearly like dozens of levels ahead of you. I'm pretty sure I've hit a few, like in Xenoblade Chronicles. There, you go into the Gower Plains and there's like Gonzalez the Immovable, some giant goddamn gorilla pink monkey. Looks like what's his not Blanganga, the pink farting monkey in Monster Hunter, Congalala. Looks kind of like that. Gonzalez the Unmovable or something like that. And he's like level 90. And when you get to the Gower Plains, you're like level 15 or 20 or something. This guy will just, you can't do any damage to him. And he will just immediately breathes in your direction and you die. It's go around him and come back later, But in Clair Obscur, there are enemies that appear to be like that. These things that just take very little damage from your attacks and one-shot you immediately just by flicking a booger in your direction. But you can still beat them if you can figure out the timing for parrying the 3 attacks that they have. And that may be on purpose. That may be the design. That may be like, oh, that's really cool. If you can parry, you can just kill anything. It might take you a while, but you can do it. Maybe that's the intent. It might be, and if so, great. But I don't know. I think if parrying did at least some chip damage, I think that might help me engage more in some of the other game systems. Small critique. Overall, I'm really enjoying the game. I do think the depth of field is a bit too much on the overworld map. Oh, and few things sucked harder than that beach parkour obstacle course thing that you do to get the swimsuit. Oh man, that's one of those did anyone actually play this type moments. Oh, I hated that. It feels broken. Because you have to walk these balance beams, these logs that are like floating in the water, and you keep slipping off them, but it doesn't feel like it's well, they're wet logs, they're slippery. No, they feel like ice. Also, because the way running in a straight line or even walking in a straight line, very difficult because the camera is slightly off center relative to your character. So it's really difficult to line up these paths. And if you fall somewhere, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Oh, God, that sucked. And then once you get past that, you have these really quickly spinning platforms, which genuinely made me dizzy and slightly nauseous. The swimsuits are fun, though. I think those are well designed. I think they're really cute. But, oh my God, I hated that obstacle course. That didn't feel good. Good idea, I think. But it didn't feel good to play. Oh well. Yeah, that's about it. Overall, I'm really, really enjoying Clair Obscur. Oh, and I played the demo to Yakuza 3 Kiwami Remake, Dark Souls, Dark Tides, Dark Tides, something. Pretty good demos are notoriously difficult to do. I think RGG did a really nice job with this demo. It doesn't. Yakuza 3 has a famously long intro. It didn't do that. It just kind of starts you in medias res and gives you a small section of Okinawa for Kiryu to wander around. Unlocks a couple of the mini games, like I think you can sing 2 karaoke songs. You can go to the indoor golf course. You can do the photo thing, which I think was introduced in like Yakuza 6. It lets you play around with your flip phone, because this is in like 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And you can, I've seen from the trailers that you can decorate your phone with stickers, but you can also put a little, hang little charms off of it. And that's fun, but what I realized is each charm has like a little passive buff, like extra strength when your health is below 20%. So it's not just aesthetics. It's kind of like the charms that they added to Resident Evil 4 Remake that you get attached to the briefcase. It's kind of like that. That's a fun little touch. And they've also added kind of the Aloha Links thing that they did in the Hawaii games. Did they have Aloha Links in... Infinite Wealth and Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. You could go around, saying hey to people, and people hi back, and they've kind of imported that over to Kiwami 3. Kiryu, I guess, can just swap contact info with it. He can also wave. That doesn't seem to do anything, but he also swaps contact info with people using his phone. What that actually does is not revealed yet, but it's interesting. There's also like I spotted a couple of people hiding in places that you can connect with on your phone to get like little items or something, so that's fun. There's a lot of fun outfits that you can dress Kiryu and make him look really silly, which I appreciate. And you got a quick look at Mine's new quest, although it didn't have any... Oh, and there were some side quests and stuff. I think there's like 3. Mine's he seems to have the same phone mechanic, although I don't know if he can decorate his phone. It wasn't actually in the options menu, or the pause menu. And he didn't have any side quests, so far as I could see. It was literally just... you get to go to Kamurocho and check out his combat system, and it's really fun. And Kiryu's got a fun new weapon style, which I really like. His main attack style also is incorporating what Saejima usually has with the charging punches. So really looking forward to... I think that game comes out in February sometime, end of February maybe. Really looking forward to that. Although I do really want to get through some of the games I'm playing. Of course, we're in Cold Steel. I'm playing Clair Obscur, which I want to finish so that I can start in on Suikoden 2 as soon as we finish Cold Steel 2. So lots of games to play. And even if there were no games to play, I've got a massive backlog. So I may be annoyed with stuff happening at work and in the country and the world in general, but I've got video games. So that's nice. And with that, I think we'll call it for tonight. Thanks all for hanging out. Hope you got some amusement from my amusings. And hope to see you tomorrow for the Sunday stream, where we'll I beat the super boss. The video is on my YouTube channel, so check that out. So tomorrow we will head to Heimdall and maybe finally rescue Reen's sister. Long time coming, that is. So that's it from me tonight. Have a nice rest of your night, folks, and hope to see you tomorrow for the Sunday stream. Take care. Bye-bye.